Welcome to Pascal's China Lens, and this week I'm going to talk about how we in Europe, how we in the West can stay competitive against China. So about 2 years ago, I got the question from a European Commissioner during a presentation at the European Commission how we in Europe could stay competitive against China. And I got that question many times. Almost every time I give a keynote about innovation in China and the technology and the future, and I talk about all these great things about China and that China is so impressive when we see at what's happening, then people say, yeah, but what does that mean for us? And how can we stay competitive? And my answer has always been the same. It's simple. We shouldn't be asking this question. We should not be asking whether we should stay competitive and how we should stay competitive against China. We should ask the question and wonder how Chinese companies inside China are competitive one against the other, because that will reveal what their weapons really are. And when we look at the Chinese internal market and how they compete internally, we understand that this is a bloody gladiator fight to the death. It's a lot of urgency that these companies have constantly to make sure they keep ahead or stay ahead of their competitors, always watching their back and making sure things haven't changed, because China is a country that is extremely volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous on top of it, so unpredictable, or VUCA world, extreme VUCA world like we say. It's really unpredictable, and so you have to have different skill sets. So look at how Chinese compete with Chinese inside China, and you will know how to compete with Chinese. One of the things is speed, and Chinese are extremely fast at execution, they're fast at the decision process, but also changing fast. Then there's things like the ecosystem, because everything moves so fast, you need to work together in partnerships, alliances, and have that vested interest and mutual dependency between each other. Then there's the things like agility. Chinese love to try things, and even if they fail, they stand up again and they do it again, and they try something else, and trying, failing, and basically succeeding over time by trying a lot is what they do. It's agile. And ultimately, it's about the customer. Because the customer in China, they can really very quickly move to another supplier. So you have to constantly be customer-centric and watch the customer and where they go and their user journey. And so Chinese has been very good. They've been very good at understanding how to speed up, how to work together in partnerships and ecosystems, how to kind of be very agile and trying out things, as well as look constantly at where the customer in the market is going. Now, we in the West have different skills. We had different skills that made us strong. Our strengths for the past 150 years in the Industrial Revolution, the first one, was always about intellectual property, building things, creating things. We're very good at that. It's also been about strategy. We're very good at strategy. Companies like McKinsey made a living out of it. We're also extremely focused on efficiency, making sure that the operation and the process is optimized to the maximum. We're also created the best and strongest brands in the world, from Nike to Coca-Cola to many brands, GE, IBM, Microsoft, you name it, lots of them. And so we're good at all these things, brand building, we're good at building products, we're good at building a process, and we know exactly where we want to end up having a good strategy. The problem is, in this new normal, in this world where everything constantly changes, speed is becoming more important than intellectual property. Relying on the ecosystem is becoming more important than relying on the strategy, because your strategy of last year, 2019, is probably not what you implement in 2020, specifically with COVID-19. Looking at doing things agile and trying out and daring more is more important than the efficiency of the process, because things change constantly, and caring about the customer is becoming more important than caring about the brand. Because like in China, a customer can make or break a brand overnight. What that means is that we need to keep strong and believe in our strengths. We need to focus on intellectual property, on our efficiency, on our strategy, on our brands, and all the things that made us so good, and optimize and be perfectionist almost into it, because we're good at it. But we also need to learn from China about speed and ecosystems and agility and customer centricity and things that are more fluid and change constantly. And so in my view, we have to learn from China what they're strong at and how they compete internally. And we have to keep strong and build on what we have. And if we do both, then we will stay competitive against China. So I hope you liked this concept and how to stay competitive against China. A lot of it came from my 20 years of experience of competing myself against Chinese companies, innovators, and how they are going so fast and work together. So I hope you can learn something from it. If you want more details, you can get my book, of course. In my book, I have a lot of examples in many industries and some lessons at the end on how to stay competitive against China and hopefully stay ahead of China. Now, see you all next week in another episode of Pascal's China Lens.